Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister Modi to visit Israel on Wednesday to become the first Indian leader to address its parliament, the Knesset. World observes a 4th anniversary of the Ukraine-Russia conflict. European leaders come together in a show of solidarity as Russia blames Europe for the crisis. The US ramps up military pressure on Iran even as both sides prepare for talks in Oman on Thursday. Largest US warship, the USS Gerald R docks at NATO base en route to West Asia. And the US rolls out new 10% global tariff on all nations, rates lower than President Trump's 15% levy plan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Israel is expected to be a historic one. The relations between the two countries have grown from strength to strength in recent years. The two share a strategic partnership. Their priorities converge in diverse domains from defense and security to innovation and workforce mobilization. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi will address Israel's parliament and hold talks with his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem. DD India Shubhendu Ghosh puts the significance of the visit in its proper context for you.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Israel from February 25th to 26th. This will be Prime Minister's second official visit to the West Asian country. In Jerusalem, Prime Minister Modi will be the first Indian leader to address the Israeli parliament called Knesset.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji is visiting Israel on February 25th and 26th. It's a 2-day visit. This is a very historic visit. First time he came to Israel was in 2017, and that time he laid down the foundation of our relationship. And now we have reached a stage where we need to take it forward and start a new phase of our strategic relationship. During his visit, he will be having detailed discussions on bilateral issues and regional and global issues with the Prime Minister, Mr. Netanyahu. He will also be meeting the President, Mr. Herzog, and he will be addressing the Knesset, which is their parliament.
India and Israel are key defense and security partners. Between 2020 and 24, Israel supplied 13% of India's total arms imports, while India accounted for 34% of Israel's defense exports. An MOU was inked in 2025 to enable sharing of advanced tech and promote co-development and co-production of defense equipments. The two countries are strongly committed to combating terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. On the trade front, India ranks as Israel's second-largest Asian trading partner in merchandise. In financial year 24-25, bilateral trade was $3.75 billion. Israel is a key partner country in the India-led IMAC initiative. India and Israel also cooperate closely in areas of water and agriculture, focusing on water conservation, wastewater treatment. The two countries are fostering strong partnership in innovation and workforce mobilization, which serves as a practical economic pillar in their bilateral relations.
The best thing about India and Israel are that we don't compete with each other, rather we complement each other. And we complement in our core strengths. Israel's core strength is in science and technology, innovation, critical and emerging technologies, be it AI, be it cybersecurity, quantum. And similarly, our core strength is huge, a kind of engineers, skilled manpower, and there's an ecosystem in India where we can scale it up in sense. So the idea during this visit will be how we can combine these two ecosystems so that both the countries can benefit out of it.
Earlier, Prime Minister Modi highlighted the deep and enduring friendship between India and Israel, highlighting trust, innovation, and shared commitment to peace and progress that define the bilateral ties. Behind me, you can see the old city of Jerusalem. The civilizational ties between India and Israel date back to over 2 millennia. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits Israel, expectations are high that the modern strategic partnership will be taken forward in diverse domains. With camera person Anand Kumar, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Jerusalem.
Now, Prime Minister Modi is set to become the first Indian leader to address the Knesset, Israel's parliament. It's a unique honor that celebrates close ties between countries. DD India Shubhendu Ghosh reports from Jerusalem.
During his visit to Israel, one of the first official engagements of Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be to visit the Parliament of Israel. It's called the Knesset, and deliver an address. It is a unique honor. It's the first time an Indian Prime Minister has been invited to address the Knesset. Although it's not a new opportunity for Prime Minister Modi, he's had experience of delivering address at several foreign parliaments in the past. The Knesset is the highest legislative body of the country of Israel, also played a key role in drafting their constitution of the state of Israel. India and Israel are strategic partners. It is expected that during Prime Minister Modi's visit, cooperation and partnership will be taken forward in diverse domains. With camera person Jaishankar, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Jerusalem.
And in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Modi will visit the historic Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum. Shubhendu Ghosh sent us this report.
We are at Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. This is the World Holocaust Remembrance Center. It commemorates the memory, the legacy of some 6 million Jews who perished during the Nazi genocide. During his visit to Israel, Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be paying a visit to the center to pay his respects. Roisa Altman, born 1870, Czechoslovakia, murdered in Auschwitz camp. This is the monumental book of names. It documents the names of inconceivable number of Holocaust victims. It keeps their names, the year they were born, the place where they grew up, and if the information is available, the place where they were murdered. The center also has an art gallery that carries art from the times of the Holocaust. All of this put together creates a living memory of the victims and a promise that such a Holocaust will never happen again. I have with me here Lily Mattis from the United States. She is one of the many people who have memories of their family members being taken during the Nazi Holocaust. Ma'am, if you can share with us, what is your memory and what brings you here?
Okay, my grandparents, the Feldmans, and from my mother's side, the Goldsteins, who were killed in the Holocaust, and also aunts and uncles, young people, and most of their family was left behind, and they were killed. You know, we don't know. They went to Treblinka, somebody said, and of course nobody survived from Treblinka.
They say when we don't learn from history, we are bound to repeat it. In that sense, this center has a message for the entire humanity. When Prime Minister Narendra Modi pays his respects to the victims of the Nazi Holocaust, it would be a poignant moment for the civilizational ties between India and Israel. With camera person Jaishankar, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Jerusalem.
And Shubhendu Ghosh now joins us from Jerusalem for more. Shubhendu, it's Prime Minister Modi's second visit to Israel in a decade. Tell us more.
Hello, Ramesh, from Jerusalem. That's right. It is going to be a historic visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. A second official visit to Israel. The last one took place in 2017. And hasn't the world really changed and transformed in so many ways in this period? There's been the pandemic. If you talk about the region itself, this region, Israel, has been so deeply affected by the Gaza conflict. So in that sense, these leaders are meeting in a entirely new context. Our priorities have changed. The way in which these countries can come together and work together has also transformed. They are strategic partners. The strategic partnership was inked way back in 2017. And now, in fact, it's an inflection point when the leaders can take the relationship to new heights. Both India and Israel invest significantly as far as technology and innovation is concerned. Expectations are high that this particular area of partnership will see new milestones. The defense partnership continues to be a cornerstone. India's own priority in the context of Operation Sindoor last year also talks much about the manner in which its own defense priorities have evolved. And Israel being a leading innovator in this domain, India would look to partner in a more comprehensive way. So there are a host of areas where convergence and partnership, Ramesh, is expected to be taken forward between India and Israel.
Shubhendu, as we saw in your report, Prime Minister Modi will be the first Indian leader to address Israel's parliament. Now, that's an honor reserved for a select few. And it also speaks to close ties that exist between India and Israel, isn't it?
Absolutely, Ramesh. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to be the first Indian Prime Minister. Remember, President Pranab Mukherjee earlier in 2015 had addressed the Knesset, but as the first Prime Minister of India, it is going to be the honor for Prime Minister Modi to be representing the voice of the country. There's a lot of excitement and anticipation around that address. It is expected that Prime Minister will present the India perspective of the current geopolitics, also give an important perspective to India-Israel ties and the manner in which the roadmap for the future can be charted by both leaders. It is, in fact, a unique honor, as you mentioned. In the past, there's been US President Donald Trump, for instance, who was invited earlier to address the Knesset and host of world leaders. For an Indian Prime Minister, it is going to be the first time for PM Modi to present the India story and his perspective on what is ailing the world and the way forward.
Now, you spoke to the Indian ambassador in Israel as well. How did that go and what did he have to tell you?
Ramesh, in my conversation with the Indian ambassador, the sense that I got was that the friendship between the two countries, India and Israel, is going to be a defining friendship for the coming decade. There's a great degree of comfort in understanding, in worldview, in convergence in priorities that these two countries have. The friendships between the two leaders, for instance, the warmth and friendship between PM Modi and PM Netanyahu is for everyone to see. They refer to each other as friends, and they find different occasions and opportunities to connect with one another and share each other's priorities. When these leaders meet again, the expectations are that the relationship is going to be elevated in a very diverse form across different sectors. We've been talking about various areas of convergence, but what the ambassador did emphasize on is that there's a great degree of comfort, especially in a divided world that we are a part of today. For two leaders, for two countries to share this degree of friendship is remarkable, and that really augurs well for the manner in which the relationship, the partnership is expected to be taken forward.
And finally, Shubhendu, before we let you go, what do we know about the Indian diaspora in Israel?
Ramesh, Indian diaspora in Israel it makes an important contribution, whether it's the society or the economic engagement is concerned. There are roughly about, the number varies, but 20 to 30,000 people of Indian origin working in Israel in various capacity, mostly as caregivers. They're also engaged in semi-skilled sectors such as construction. And remember, just around the time the Gaza conflict was at its peak, there was a great shortage of trained workforce in Israel. And at that point, there were special provisions made for the migration of Indian skilled and semi-skilled workers. So in that sense, that's also that kind of mobilization of workforce is an important aspect of India-Israel partnership. And the friendship that exists between the two countries, between the two leaders, also reflects in the degree of comfort the access to various opportunities that Indian diaspora members have in the country, Ramesh.
All right, we'll leave it there for now, Shubhendu. Thank you. Shubhendu Ghosh reporting there from Jerusalem on the much anticipated visit to Israel by India's Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. Right, still to come on DD India News Hour. The US to push for consensus on Venezuela and Cuba at a summit of the Caribbean nations. China imposes curbs on 40 Japanese entities in an escalating dispute. And a winter storm batters the US, 11,000 flights cancelled, 500,000 go without power.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Fresh US tariffs on imported goods came into effect Tuesday as President Trump moved to rebuild his trade agenda after the country's top court ruled against the duties imposed by him. The White House said that the new tariffs, initially set at 10%, are justified as a means to deal with the large and serious US balance of payments deficits. President Trump also warned to hike the tariffs on countries that choose to play games following the court decision.
The United States imposed a new tariff from Tuesday of 10% on all goods not covered by exemptions, the rate first announced by President Donald Trump on Friday rather than the 15% he promised a day later. Trump has doubled down on imposing tariffs on trading partners since the US Supreme Court on Friday struck down many of his sweeping duties in a rebuke of his signature economic policy. As the new tariffs takes effect from Tuesday midnight, collection of the tariffs annulled by the Supreme Court was halted. They had ranged from 10% to as much as 50%. It remains unclear whether and how companies will be refunded for tariff payments made under the regime annulled by the Supreme Court. The Section 122 law allows the president to impose new duties for up to 150 days to address large and serious balance of payments deficits and fundamental international payments problems. Meanwhile, Japan has asked the United States to ensure its treatment under a new tariff regime would be as favorable as in an existing agreement. In July, the US and Japan agreed a deal to cut tariffs on autos and other goods to 15%, while Japan agreed to a $550 billion package of US-bound loans and investment. The European Union, Britain and Taiwan all indicated a preference to stick to their deals too. China too urged Washington to abandon its unilateral tariffs, indicating it was willing to hold another round of trade talks. Amid all this, a group of 22 Democratic US senators introduced a legislation aimed at forcing the Trump administration to issue refunds for all of the now illegal IEEPA-based tariffs within 180 days, but it faced an uncertain path to a vote. Over the past year, Trump has imposed various tariff rates on partners, sometimes changing them on short notice. Bureau Report, DD India.
The White House has said that US President Trump's first option with Iran is always diplomacy, but he is willing to use lethal force if necessary. Now, this comes as US warship Gerald R makes a stop at a NATO base in Greece before heading to West Asia.
US continues to ramp up military pressure on Iran even as both sides prepare to hold nuclear talks in Oman on Thursday. American warship Gerald R. Ford, the world's largest aircraft carrier, has made a stop at a NATO base in Greece before heading to West Asia. Earlier, in a post on Truth Social, President Donald Trump rejected media reports claiming that Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Daniel Kane, has cautioned Washington against the war with Iran. The US president also reiterated his warning to Iran, saying that it will be very bad for the country if it fails to reach a deal with Washington. Amid the tensions, the ground forces of Iran's Revolutionary Guards held military drills on the country's southern coast. Meanwhile, Lebanese officials have said that Israel has sent an indirect message to Lebanon that it would strike the country hard if Hezbollah gets involved in any US Iran conflict. Earlier, Iran said that pressuring it to unilaterally accept US demands will certainly yield no results. Iran has signaled a willingness to dilute its uranium stockpile in exchange for sanctions relief. But US has also sought to expand the talks beyond the nuclear issue to cover Iran's missile program and its support for regional armed groups. Iran has publicly rejected this demand. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, Mexico on Monday deployed an additional 2,000 troops to the western state of Jalisco following violence in the wake of the death of a most wanted cartel leader, Nemesio Esguerra, known as El Mancho. Mexico has deployed 10,000 troops since Sunday to quell the clashes sparked by the killing of the drug lord. Violence has already claimed dozens of lives. The slain cartel leader had a $15 million bounty on his head. News of his death triggered violence, with cartel members blocking roads in 20 states and torching vehicles and businesses. At least 25 security personnel were killed in the subsequent clashes. In Jalisco's capital, Guadalajara, schools remained closed and most public transportation was suspended. While US President Trump had yet to respond publicly to the cartel leader's death, he posted briefly on his Truth Social platform, and I quote, "Mexico must step up the effort on cartels and drugs," unquote. In response to the violence and clashes in Mexico, the US, Canada and India have issued a stay in shelter warning for its citizens in that country. In the US and Canada, several airlines have also cancelled their flights to Mexico. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio will take part in a summit of Caribbean nations on Wednesday as he seeks a common line on Venezuela and pressure on Cuba. Rubio will represent the US in the summit of the Caribbean Community taking place this week in the island nation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Rubio will reaffirm the US's commitment to working with CARICOM members to enhance stability and prosperity in their hemisphere. China imposed restrictions on 40 Japanese firms and organizations, citing national security concerns in an escalating dispute that has already hurt travel to Japan. The tensions stem from remarks by Japan's Prime Minister Takaichi Sanai, suggesting that Tokyo could respond militarily if Taiwan was attacked. Beijing's Commerce Ministry barred exports of dual-use goods to 20 Japanese entities, including Mitsubishi Corporation and the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, alleging support for military development. Another 20 Japanese companies, such as Subaru Corporation, were placed on a watch list requiring tighter export scrutiny. China said that the measures aim to counter Japan's remilitarization and would not disrupt normal trade. Tokyo signaled that it would assess their impact and respond appropriately. Reacting to the export restrictions, Tokyo said that these restrictions are absolutely unacceptable and deeply regrettable. The northeastern region of the U.S. has been paralyzed by a severe blizzard since Sunday, with relentless snowfall and exceptionally strong winds causing widespread disruption across the region. The blizzard dumped more than 2.5 feet of snow, disrupting travel, shutting schools, and leaving more than 600,000 homes and businesses without power. New York City's Central Park recorded more than 19 inches of snow, and Boston saw 14 inches of snow. Thousands of flights were cancelled at major airports, including John F. Kennedy International Airport, LaGuardia Airport, and Logan International Airport, while rail services were also suspended. Many states declared emergencies, and National Guard troops were deployed to assist with snow clearance and response efforts. The Canadian government has started proceedings to revoke the citizenship of the 26/11 Mumbai terror attack accused Tahavur Hussain Rana ahead of Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's visit to India. Rana allegedly obtained Canadian citizenship in 2001 through misrepresentation. He did not disclose his prolonged absences from the country while claiming residency in Ottawa and Toronto. The matter has now been referred to a trial court. Rana is currently in Indian custody following his extradition from the US. He's awaiting trial in connection with the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar met with the participants of the 4th Global South Young Diplomats Forum. The minister welcomed their positive experiences at the just concluded AI Impact Summit in New Delhi. The minister focused on the growing stakes of the Global South in artificial intelligence and the need to promote greater awareness and understanding of AI-related issues. The minister emphasized the importance of inclusive engagement as emerging technologies reshape global governance and development. The International Spice Conference in Kochi that began on 23rd February is witnessing participation of top voices from the world industry who are discussing various global challenges going ahead and the need for shared responsibility, especially in the era of tariffs and trade turbulence across the globe. Spice exporters from various parts of India, CEOs of various food processing companies from Europe, the US and African nations expressed their ideas and concerns alike.
The International Spice Conference, being held in Kochi from 23rd to 26th February, has evolved into one of the world's most respected platforms for structured, solutions-oriented dialogue across the spice value chain. The participation this year spans regulatory authorities, exporters, manufacturers, farmer organizations, testing laboratories, certification agencies, and allied industries, enabling discussions that are practical and aligned with on-ground.
We must work with our trade partners in origins like India as one of our most critical origins, as well as other origins around the world. Coming together as a trade right now at this conference is absolutely critical. It's a pivotal moment, and it's an opportunity for us to work together.
During the conference, an MOU was signed between the All India Spices Exporters Forum and the European Spice Association, which is meant to strengthen food safety compliance in the India-EU spice trade.
All the players from all over the world are coming here to Kochi. And then it's an opportunity to exchange about what's going on in the different continents and to make sure that all our partners in the origin are understanding the EU policy. So, and therefore, it's the right place at the right time to talk about that.
The third and fourth day of the Spice Conference is dedicated towards discussions and deliberations between the stakeholders in the global sector.
What this has also done is forced us to look at other markets which are also fast growing. You can't depend on just one market. So we are now looking at significantly newer markets.
The conference is happening at a time when the global geopolitical tensions have reached at its peak, where tariffs imposed by the US administration have prompted countries to diversify spice markets and strengthen trade relationships with the ASEAN and African countries.
The International Spice Conference will underline the shared responsibilities of all stakeholders, including the traders, the exporters, and to ensure that sustainable growth of global spice sector is the most important factor at this point of time. In Kochi, this is Vivek with Vijay Salim.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. A deep dive into the Ukraine-Russia conflict, which completes 4 years.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? the Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. We read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Ukraine marked 4 years of its conflict with Russia with a solemn moment of silence. Leaders of the European Union joined President Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, reaffirming their solidarity with him. For its part, Russia maintained that Western involvement has widened the conflict, but said that it remains open to a diplomatic solution. DD India's Nishoy Roy reports.
4 years on, the conflict in Ukraine has evolved from a regional unrest into a defining geopolitical contest, testing Europe's unity, NATO's resolve, and the global balance of power. Kyiv paused in silence on Tuesday, marking the 4th anniversary of the conflict with Russia. Soldiers lowered flags in the capital as commuters paused and bowed their heads in remembrance. Leaders of the European Union joined President Volodymyr Zelensky for a prayer service in Kyiv, reaffirming European solidarity. In a video address on Tuesday, Zelensky said Ukraine is ready to do everything for a strong and lasting peace, and renewed his call for a clear EU membership timeline.
Ukrainians are enduring the hardest winter in history, and terror almost every night. I do not know who else could withstand this without collapsing or wavering. Ukrainians are doing it. Of course, we all want the war to end, but no one will allow Ukraine to end. We want peace, strong, dignified, lasting.
French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer chaired a virtual coalition of the willing meet, highlighting Western unity on Ukraine. Addressing the conference, Volodymyr Zelensky urged allies to maintain strong and sustained support.
We need Europe in negotiations. We do what we can to involve Europeans as much as possible, and we count on your leadership in all this negotiation process. We will have trilateral format, I think, during this week or 10 days.
At NATO headquarters, Secretary General Mark Rutte said lasting peace in Europe is impossible without peace in Ukraine.
We remember today and every day what Ukraine has endured. But while we pay tribute to those lost and those suffering, we also stand in hope, inspired by 4 years of unbroken resistance. NATO stood with Ukraine from the beginning. We stand with you today, and we will stand with you throughout the challenges ahead.
Meanwhile, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres renewed his call for an immediate, full and unconditional ceasefire in Ukraine. Russia, however, maintains that Western intervention has turned the conflict into a broader confrontation. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said the fighting continues, but insisted that Moscow remains open to achieving its aims through political and diplomatic means. As the ongoing peace talks, brokered by the United States, appear to have stalled over the question of territory, the path to peace remains as contested as the battlefield itself. Nishoy Roy for DD India.
And joining us is Ambassador J.S. Mukul. Ambassador Mukul is a former Indian envoy to the Netherlands and Oman. He's also served in Syria, the UAE and Saudi Arabia, among other countries. Ambassador, welcome to DD India News Hour. Straight off the bat, Ambassador, is Russia winning the war?
Well, good evening and thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Yes, I think nobody is really winning the war, though the momentum in the last few years has been with Russia. Russia started off this whole thing with the objective of completing it in a very short time. And as we see today, we are marking the 4th anniversary of the war. We are entering the 5th year today, and there seems to be no immediate prospects of a settlement, albeit that the mediation efforts are ongoing, and both sides seem to affirm repeatedly that they want peace and they want a negotiated settlement. But obviously, the matter is much more complicated than that, and therefore, the prognosis, at least for the immediate future, does not look very, very hopeful.
Ambassador Mukul, since you refer to mediation and the efforts being made for peace, the question is the world getting any closer to ending the war? What will it take to end the bloodshed?
Well, that's a good question. Now, the point is that almost 12 efforts at summit level and various other mediation efforts have come to naught. The latest one is a triangular effort, a trilateral thing with the US mediation, with direct talks between the Ukrainian and the Russian delegations.
Right.
First round was held in Abu Dhabi. The last week, the second round or one of the rounds, latest round was held in Geneva. However, there seemed to be no breakthrough. While both sides affirmed that progress had been made, and of course they also confessed that these are difficult negotiations, given the fact that a number of issues, territory, security, etc., are involved, and of course affirmed that they are ready for further political and diplomatic, exploring further political and diplomatic avenues. No new date or venue for the next round has been set yet.
Ambassador Mukul, you spoke about the trilateral US, Ukraine, Russia talks. Could you elaborate on the main sticking points in those talks? And does either side appear willing to compromise?
Well, the main points have been almost consistent from the very beginning. First, it is the the territory issue.
Right.
Russia has a priority of taking over Donbas, the two provinces of Donetsk and Luhansk. It controls 78% or so of the Donetsk territory and 99% of Luhansk. In addition, it also lays claim to the provinces of Kherson and Zaporizhia, where it controls almost 75% of the territory. Now, the question is that on the territory, since Donbas is a priority for Russia, the Ukraine finds it, and the Ukrainian president has stated this, and that has also been, I think, reconfirmed by an internal referendum in Ukraine, that the majority of the population is opposed to handing over at least the 20% or so of the Donbas region, which is still under the Ukrainian control. So that is about territory. There is also a major sticking point on the security issues. The membership of NATO, which was initially a Ukrainian objective, has by and large been given up, but its concomitant, the security guarantees which Ukraine desires, are a sticking point at the moment. Obviously, the Russian position is very clear. They do not want any foreign troops or foreign involvement in the post-conflict security arrangement for Ukraine. And then, of course, there is the whole issue of sanctions and how those could be rolled back, etc. So a complicated scenario as we mark the 4th anniversary of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which has now, as per the Russian description, has become is expanded to become a wider confrontation from the initial special military operation that it had undertaken.
Indeed, as they say, Ambassador, a week is a long time in politics. What to talk of 4 years? Now, if we take a step back and look at these past 4 years, what lessons do you think the world can draw from this conflict, for better or worse?
Well, there are many lessons, obviously. On the military side, I think it is clear that it is no longer possible, even for a stronger country to really ride roughshod over the weaker country. There have been new innovations within the war, like the extensive use of the drone technology, which I believe 6,000 drones attacks from the Russian side into 2023, and they have been ramped up to 29,000 drone attacks in last year, that is 2025. So all this is on the military side. The other lesson is that I guess there is no substitute for a political solution through diplomatic negotiations. And obviously, in that sense, the interference of outside powers should be minimal. It is best that solutions are derived in direct talks between the protagonists, if that is at all possible. And in the immediate term, I think some confidence building measures are needed so that some trust can be built or restored between the two sides before they move on to either a ceasefire or a lasting peaceful solution. So those, I think, are the broad parameters on which we should hope that as the war enters its fifth year, good sense will prevail all round and peace could be restored, because there has been tremendous suffering in terms of men and material, fatalities and casualties,
absolutely,
of the economic devastation, etc. So I think the whole of Europe, in fact, this has now become the longest lasting war for both Europe as well as for Russia since the Second World War, which ended in 1945.
Indeed. And as we wrap it up, Ambassador, a twofold question, if I may. Looking back with the benefit of hindsight, could Russia or Ukraine have behaved differently to prevent a war in the first place? In other words, were mistakes committed by all parties concerned? Number one. Number two, was this always a proxy war between Russia and the West, led by the US and NATO?
Well, first question, yes, indeed. I think the initial provocation on the side of Ukraine, goaded, of course, by the Western powers, was, I think, something which is a mistake in hindsight.
Okay.
They perhaps miscalculated that Russia would take such action, despite the fact that the Russians having repeatedly warned them on this. On the side of Russia, yes, the mistake was that it perhaps calculated that it could achieve its objectives of getting Donbass, of neutralizing Ukraine's ambitions to be a NATO member, etc., in a short period of time, which has not happened, primarily again because Ukraine has been propped up by tremendous aid from the Western allies, initially the United States and Europe, but lately primarily the European Union. In that context, let me also add a sentence by saying that as the European leaders, both the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, are today in Kyiv, they were actually planning perhaps to announce a $90 billion aid package, a new loan package for Ukraine, but that has been sort of put on hold or vetoed in the European Union by Hungary. Also, the idea of putting together the 20th set of sanction package against Russia has also been put on hold or vetoed by both Hungary and Slovakia. So really, while the Europeans are trying to project this as a united stand, they are broadly united and are trying to express their solidarity. I think a bit of a damper has been the fact that they have to also tide over their internal unity efforts. Meanwhile, UK has today announced major sanctions against Russia, 300 odd sanctions again to coincide with the 4th anniversary. Because UK obviously is no longer bound by the European, is independent of the EU sanctions. So that is where we are. And we can only hope that going forward, the negotiations or the mediation efforts would come to fruition and allow perhaps Mr. Trump to claim a ninth success, though however dubious his 8 others may have been, and going forward. Also, it's important for him because when he came to power, he had claimed that he would end the war in 24 hours.
True.
And now he's well into his second year of his presidency. I think he has perhaps given himself an outer deadline of 4th July, which would mark the 250th year of American independence. He would like to declare success and victory, especially going on to the midterm elections which are due in the United States. So that's where I think we are we mark this 4th anniversary.
Right. On that note, Ambassador Mukul, thank you once again for joining us and sharing your perspectives with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Right. In some other news that we're tracking here on DD India News, India's healthcare system is undergoing a major transformation. No longer confined to hospitals and clinics, healthcare deliveries are now being powered by digital technology and artificial intelligence. From early diagnosis to personalized treatment and rural outreach, AI is emerging as a game changer, making healthcare faster, smarter, and more accessible.
India's healthcare system is no longer limited to hospitals and medical clinics of doctors. Digital technology and artificial intelligence have given a new direction to the country's healthcare infrastructure. Today, AI is not just a technical term. It has become the foundation for better treatment, timeless diagnosis, and a more empowered healthcare system. AI's most significant impact is visible in early diagnosis and personalized treatment. In radiology, pathology, and cardiology, AI-based systems are detecting diseases with greater accuracy than ever through advanced medical imaging. By analyzing large volumes of data, AI evaluates a patient's lifestyle, genetic profile, and medical history to design personalized treatment plans, making healthcare more precise, effective, and affordable. AI has also transformed telemedicine. In remote and rural interiors where specialist doctors are often unavailable, AI-enabled telemedicine platforms are providing consultations right at patients' homes. Virtual assistants, chatbots, and remote monitoring devices track symptoms in real time and instantly share critical data with doctors. This technology is significantly strengthening rural healthcare services. AI is playing a vital role in community health and disease surveillance as well. Across the country, AI-based monitoring systems are tracking disease patterns, identifying risks, and predicting potential outbreaks. The National Center for Disease Control is using AI-driven data analytics to detect health threats early, enabling timely prevention action. In hospitals, AI is streamlining administrative tasks for patient records and appointment scheduling to billing and supply chain management. Automation is allowing doctors and healthcare workers to spend more time with patients. Improved internet connectivity in rural areas has further expanded AI adoption. At the same time, healthcare professionals are being trained to effectively integrate AI into clinical practice. India is steadily moving toward a digital, AI-enabled healthcare future. National initiatives such as the TB-Free India campaign are already leveraging AI at scale. With technology, policy, and human empathy working together, the country is building a stronger, more inclusive, and future-ready healthcare system. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Department of Biotechnology under India's Ministry of Science and Technology has completed 40 years of dedicated service to the nation. Celebrating its Foundation Day under the theme of 40 years of innovation, 40 years of impact, 40 years of transforming science for society, the department highlighted its journey of advancing cutting-edge research and strengthening India's biotech ecosystem. Addressing a gathering, Science and Technology Minister Jitendra Singh lauded the department's pivotal role in boosting innovation and nurturing biotech startups in the country.
The credit goes to Prime Minister Modi because he picked up those sectors which had remained hitherto unexplored or underexplored. How many startups we have in biotech sector? The last 10 years, as many as 11,000. And you can imagine the number of jobs being generated in this sector. must be many, many more times. And therefore also the bioeconomy. We stood at just 10 billion US dollar in 2014. We are now close to 166 billion US dollar, and our projection is that we will be 300 billion by 2030 or so.
On the occasion, the Secretary for the Department of Biotechnology, Rajesh Gokhale, emphasized that this is the right moment for the sector to integrate with artificial intelligence and accelerate India's economic growth.
So very happy to have all of us there for 40th Foundation Day here at Department of Biotechnology. This is the real moment for biotech sector to grow up. Frankly, the BT and AI together will be an amazing force to take forward the Indian economy as well as the innovation ecosystem. The first technological revolution was mechanized the world. The second one, you can say, electrified the world. The third one, digitalized the world. And the fourth technological revolution will biologize the world, actually.
President Draupadi Murmu inaugurated a nationwide campaign called Saving Lives and Building a Healthier Bharat at Lok Bhavan in Mumbai on Tuesday. The President highlighted major healthcare initiatives of the Indian government, including Ayushman Bharat Yojana. The President emphasized the importance of collaboration between the government and all stakeholders concerned in creating a healthier India.
स्वस्थ भारत के निर्माण में सरकार के साथ-साथ अन्य सभी हितधारकों का भी भूमिका महत्वपूर्ण है। गुणवत्तापूर्ण स्वास्थ्य सेवा जन जन तक पहुंचे, इसके लिए सबको मिलकर प्रयास करना होगा। आज शुरू किया गया सेविंग लाइव्स एंड बिल्डिंग ए हेल्थियर भारत इस दिशा में एक ऐसा ही प्रयास है। मुझे बताया गया है कि अगले 1 वर्ष तक चलने वाले इस अभियान के अंतर्गत प्रिवेंटिव हेल्थ केयर, यूथ वेलबींग, मेडिकल एजुकेशन, डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन और सस्टेनेबिलिटी जैसे अनेक कदम उठाए जाएंगे।
With just 19 days remaining before the House of Representatives election in Nepal, candidates are intensifying their door-to-door campaigns, seeking to win over voters ahead of the crucial election. Candidates and their party cadres have been actively engaging in election publicity campaigns, visiting households, distributing pamphlets and displaying banners, highlighting their major agendas, commitments and pledges listed in their election manifestos. In addition to traditional outreach, social media platforms such as Facebook, TikTok and YouTube are playing an increasingly important role, particularly in reaching out to young voters. India's High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Santosh Jha, hosted an Iftar on Tuesday, highlighting the strong and enduring ties between the two countries. Several members of the Dawoodi Bohra community who are connected to India, ministers, parliamentarians, members of business community and officials participated at the Iftar. Ramzan, which is one of the holiest months of the Islamic calendar, is being observed across the world since last week, wherein Muslims fast from dawn to dusk. Addressing a gathering, the High Commissioner said, bilateral ties are unparalleled and deeply rooted in civilizational and cultural affinities.
The India-Sri Lanka relationship is unparalleled, not merely in its economic and political expanse, but also, in fact, most importantly, in its civilizational and cultural affinities.
The Deputy Speaker of the Parliament of Sri Lanka, Rizvi Saleh, also attended the event. Addressing the gathering, he praised India as a leading example of pluralism and appreciated its neighborhood-first policy.
India stands as one of the world's greatest examples of pluralism, of a civilization that of many faiths, languages and traditions. Neighborhood-first policy by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. This vision, placing priority on close and cooperative relations with neighboring countries, is both timely and visionary.
In sports news, the International Cricket Council unveiled the complete schedule and groups for the 2026 edition of the Women's T20 Cricket World Cup. The 10th edition of the competition will take place from 12th June to 5th July this year, with 12 teams vying for the title. Hosts England will square off against Sri Lanka in the opening fixture on 12th June. India will open their campaign against Pakistan on 14th June. Bangladesh, Ireland, Scotland and the Netherlands were the final 4 teams to book their spot, progressing via the qualifiers held in Nepal last month. The teams have been divided into 2 groups of 6 teams. Group 1 consists of Australia, Bangladesh, India, the Netherlands, Pakistan and South Africa, while Group 2 features the hosts England, Ireland, defending champions New Zealand, Scotland, Sri Lanka and the West Indies. In hockey, India went down fighting in a shootout against Spain following a tense 1-all draw in regulation time during the Hobart leg of the FIH Men's Pro League. Despite holding a 1-0 advantage until the 59th minute, courtesy a brilliant strike from Maninder Singh, a late equalizer from Spain's Bruno Font forced the shootout. In the shootout, misses from Abhishek and Hardik Singh proved costly as India fell 3-4, walking away with a single point from the hard-fought encounter. India will next take on Australia in the 4th game of the tournament on Wednesday. To football now, Inter Milan will be looking to avoid an early Champions League elimination when they take on Bodo Glimt. Inter Milan, playing at home in this return match, are under pressure as they lost 1-3 to the Norwegian team in the first leg. Moreover, they'll be without their captain and star striker Lautaro Martinez, who was injured in their first leg game. Bodo Glimt clung with incredible momentum, beating giants such as Manchester City, Atletico Madrid and Inter Milan in the first leg. In another key battle, Atletico Madrid welcome Club Brugge for the second leg playoff tie. A dramatic 3-all draw in the first meeting leaves the tie delicately poised. Atletico have endured an inconsistent campaign, finishing with 13 points from 8 matches and dropping into the playoffs. Club Brugge, meanwhile, face an uphill task but remain firmly in the tie after their spirited display in the first leg. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. You can get the latest news on the DD India mobile app on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code to download it. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.